I wouldn't watch a documentary on the Mason family or the Manson family, because those are two different families.
The Masons just live up the road and just had someone follow them around. Their dad's in software, the mom's a stay-at-home mom. 2 kids, Ricky and Bobby, both of them are on the swim team. Ricky's better than Bobby. Bobby has trouble with his backstroke. He gets made fun of for it. He crapped his Speedo once. There was just like a lump in the front and a lump in the back.
But he's got a fucking butterfly stroke you can't shake a stick at.
No, that's why I keep him on the team.
Hey guys, welcome to the Bloody and Sutty show. I am SuttySmash. This is
Bloody the Elf, and welcome to the show for prison inmates by prison inmates. Today we got a great show in store. We got a continuation of March of Cults. And this week we're doing the People's Temple and Jim Jones. And after that, we've got our usual format of This Week in Dumb, actually news stories from actually this week. And then after that...
actually this week, 100%.
Yeah, they are from this week. And then we're going to close up with another... What's the theme tonight?
It's actually movies about cults.
Movies about cults.
Because, you know... I didn't have a creative bone in my body at that point, so I was like, "Oh, what's easy?" That
you kept it on topic, and that is respectable. So I'm excited. I know Sutty over there is excited, and Wee Baby Samara also excited.
Clearly, she can't take it. She's plugging her ears right now. She's like, "Nope, no spoilers."
I know executive producer Melissa Martinez is super excited about it.
Hi, Melissa Martinez.
Excited. And Twitch and Discord mods, Lolita, also very excited.
Let's talk some Jim Jones and the People's Temple. So, Jim Jones, when he was a kid, he was one of I think it was like 4 or 5 kids. He was one of those families, right?
Yeah.
And he lived in Indiana, and his dad was a drunk. He didn't work. The mom worked, and all of his childhood friends said that they would all go to his house and play in the barn. And they said from a really young age, from like 6, 7, he was really obsessed with like death and religion. And he would kill small animals, because that's not a red flag, even a little bit.
Not even.
He killed like cats and rabbits and shit on the farm. And then would hold funerals for them that he invited the friends to come to after he murdered them. Yeah, it's real weird. So then, as he got older, he started getting into being a pastor, and he didn't feel at home with his family, because, you know, it was a fucking dysfunctional family. It's just what it was. And you know, It's normal for people to throw bottles at the wall every once in a while.
Passion. That's all I'm hearing.
So he started getting into being a pastor, and he started feeling a sense of community at the Pentecostal church, like the local Pentecostal church.
Sure.
And you know, they're very fucking, it's a big fucking to-do at Pentecostal churches. They're the fucking raise hands in the air and fucking speaking in tongues and all that shit.
Yeah.
And so he started doing that, and he didn't start, and that was like in the 60s. I think it was 65. He ended up getting a solid following of like 40-ish people, and got them to move out to let me take a step back for a second. So what he was preaching in Indiana in the 50s and early 60s was like integration, like full inclusion, mixed race, mixed everything, like just, and which wasn't a bad message, right? Especially for the time.
No, it wasn't.
But it was really odd, and people in his congregation would stand up during sermons and be like, hey, these motherfuckers don't belong here, and he would kick them out, which, you know, was a good message. It was it was a solid fucking message at the time. And so he ended up moving him and his small following out to Ukiah, which is a really rural fucking Northern California, like farmland. And they started building a community and doing church there. And he was really charismatic and talked people into, one, just fucking moving across the country, you know, in a 15-car fucking caravan across the country to go move to fucking rural California. And he moved there because it was in, I don't remember the publication, but it was like one of the 9 places that would survive a nuclear fucking holocaust because it's so rural.
Yeah.
So they ended up building like houses and farmland and shit out there. And his whole thing was, if you join the People's Temple, if you join the church will take care of you. So if you come here, you contribute, and we'll take care of you. If you you need to go see a doctor, we'll make sure you get seen by a doctor. If you need a fucking dentist, if you need legal help, like, we'll help you with all of that. So it was very communal. It was very, it was like a socialist agenda, right? Like, it was, everybody was equal, which, again, not a bad message. No, and this
was like high in the or deep into that whole what do you call it, that whole movement of
civil rights
movement. This was very high in this. So he had a lot of like celebrities step up and be like, just like they do now, back then, were like preaching in his favor, like they're like, he's doing amazing things. And with his church, it was clothe the sick, feed the hungry. It was very much so outreach towards the poor. And the biggest thing was his civil rights was a big deal. And appreciate. So he got a lot of favor from within the community. People loved him because he was doing the things that their local governments couldn't do. And that was a big thing. However, though, the big catch to that was he was very into secluding this congregation from the outside. So he would be like, instead of spending your time on Thanksgiving with your family, you need to spend it with your new family. We are your family now. So you don't buy Christmas presents for your family. You buy them for the church to then distribute to the congregation. Like, they're not your family anymore. We're your new family. And that was a big part.
Yeah. And it got to the point where it was like, hey, instead of tithing, you know, your 20% of your income, sign your house over, fucking sell your house,
everything.
Give us the proceeds. And the church will take care of you, which was real weird, but, you know, it still worked to a degree. It was still getting it was in that gray area of, this is kind of fucking weird. But he built up a fucking, like, for senior citizens, he built them a whole senior center with like state-of-the-art shit. So it was like, okay, all right, you know, whatever. But then he kind of outgrew Ukiah.
Yeah.
And ended up moving the place out to San Francisco after doing like bus tours with the church.
Yeah.
Where he just like basically recruited people. He would have
sermons
in different places. Yeah. And he was like, I'll get you on this bus right now. Fucking get on here, whatever. And he was a showman is basically what it was. There's one real popular video of a faith healing that he did. And
that was a big part of it too.
Yeah, it was this lady in a wheelchair, and she got up and started walking and then started running down the fucking pews and shit. And then everybody found out way later that was just one of his secretaries that he just dressed up to.
Yeah, that was actually a huge thing too, where he was he made a spectacle out of it and was like obviously deceiving people. Like it was, he would have like these big events during his church services that were like up to in the area of around 3,000 people that would show up to see him. But he would go through, make you sign up ahead of time. They'd come in, and then he would have like private investigators run background checks on these people. So then he could get information like their home addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers. They would feed him that information. Then he'd call them out of the crowd, make them come up, and then just tell this information. So it made it sound like he had, speaking with God, he has this information and he knew all. And he would have healings that he got, he picked up from another guy, but he would take like chicken livers and like animal parts, and then he would say that he's taking their cancer away, and it would be like, and they would be like, oh, I'm saved. And so he would gain thousands of people to come in and see this through just means of deception. And it was one thing that was really important to keep in mind on all this too, that this was not much for religion for him, but it was more to push the political agenda of communism. It was very much political, and that was one of the things that I wanted to touch on. Is he was very narcissistic, and that was the main reason for him leaving Ukiah, because he had a good thing, like for what it was, he had a good thing in Ukiah, it was altruistic, or it seemed that way anyway. You know, it was altruistic, fucking for the people. And if it would have just stayed that small community, that small town church and fucking community and whatnot, it would have been kind of, odd, but it would have been beneficial to everybody involved. But then he's like, I can't get any bigger here. Yeah, he had to move. Yeah, I need to go somewhere where I can grow this further. So he went to San Francisco. He ended, and the other thing is he put the People's Temple, he put them out for hire for like protests or events and shit, to where it's like, hey, if you need people, fucking we'll get out there and we'll be enthusiastic and we'll push your fucking cause, whatever it is. Yeah. And one of those causes was getting a mayor elected. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they got him elected, and in return for that, he made Jim Jones the chair for like the San Francisco Housing Commission or something along those lines. Yeah, that was it. And so he was holding that, seat of power. He was very powerful. And then all of the church, like these meetings that they are obligated to go to, are normally very fucking mundane meetings where they're just talking about like, oh, all right, well, so building code, blah 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 blah. But with Jim Jones, it was very theatrical. He had all of his people come, and every time he would enter the room, they would all stand up, and then they would sit down and clap at everything he fucking said. And like to your point that you made a little bit earlier, he isolated everybody. Yeah. Because of how big everything was getting, everybody had a job that they had to do, and people were talking about how they would work 20 hours a day for the fucking People's Temple. Yeah. So they were so exhausted that Jim Jones ended up was doing the thinking for them. He was just like, you do this, you do this, you do this, and they were just so exhausted that they were just mindlessly following what he said. So in addition to him being charismatic and manipulative, he was using people's exhaustion to just have like mold them to his will. And he ended up
telling people that they couldn't have sex with their wives or their spouses, period. He said that everybody was a homosexual to some degree, and he was the only heterosexual in the world. And
he never poops.
But he would yeah, right. But he would offer, like, there was one guy, I don't remember his name, but he when he first came into the temple, he's like, you know what, I'll fuck you in the ass if you want me to. You know, like, it was really weird. Like, he would approach people sexually, and he would be in adulterous relationships with members of the church and shit. And a lot of that stuff is ultimately what was his downfall. There was another girl who was on one of the buses, and he just sat down next to her, and she was like, he smelt of alcohol, like, real strong.
Yeah.
And he was not supposed to be doing that. And he just sat down next to her on the bus, and he's like, do you know what you do to me?
Oh.
And it's like, wow. And she's like 20 at the time, and he's, in his
Strong.
40s. Yeah. And he's like, after we stop this bus, I need you to come back to my office. So he had in one of the Greyhound buses that they had, he had a whole back area that had his desk and a bed and all this other shit. So after they stopped, he ended up having sex with her, and she was like, this is the creepiest fucking part, right? While he was doing it, he's like, I'm doing this for you. This is all. This is for you. It's like, whoa, that's gross.
Yeah, that's icky.
Yeah, and it got to the point. So he ended up working on building a community in Guyana, which is in South America. It's in, like, the northeastern portion or northeastern province, country. I don't know. Whatever the fuck country.
It's in Africa.
Yeah, no, it's South America.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's like the same thing. They're the same shape.
They've got forests,
jungle cats, and it's important to know why they moved there too.
Pangea, bitch.
Yeah, right. So they left the United States to go to Ghana because this was much later. Like, you've gone through the 60s and into, like, 73, 74.
Yeah.
People's kind of started to pick up on what was happening, and people were defecting because it was like that strong control. It was very, very, like, autocratic. It was very much everything was Jim Jones's saying and final say, and that was it. He had, like, a lot of, like, you could call them, like, lieutenants that he would, like, he had secretaries, and he had assistants, and he had people that did certain things, and they had young people who were, like, in their 20s and 30s that handled, like, legal work and stuff like that. But people kind of, like, not everyone was into it, and they had, like, defectors that would escape and then talk to, like, the press, who would then try and, like, get it into magazines, that, because magazines were still a thing back then, that this what the church was actually doing, which is all the things you're talking about. Like, it was really into, like, physical punishment for both children and adults.
Oh yeah.
So, like, if you went out against the church, they would beat you and your children, so to keep you in line.
Oh yeah.
And then
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, people obviously escaped while they were still in the States, and when they talked to reporters, and reporters would start to write articles about it. And then Jim Jones would come in and say, this is all a lie. And they're just trying to, like...
What happened with that, right? So to touch on the beatings,
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy who was like, yeah, I've seen people, you'd have to, like, you'd get called up, and it would be it would be like a community thing where you'd get called up and you'd have to fight, like, 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a gauntlet you had to run. And he's like, I remember somebody getting knocked out. They threw water on him to wake him up, and then he had to fight 2 more people. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And there was another lady who was, like, slipping Jim Jones notes, like, something. And
was that what the note said?
Yep.
That's something.
And one of the other chicks that he was probably banging was got jealous and was like, hey, He doesn't have any. You don't have anything that he wants. Fucking go ahead, just get naked. Show us your body. Let us know what it is specifically that he would want about you.
Yeah.
And Jim Jones is like, yeah, man, go for it. Fucking get naked.
Yeah. Do
So
what she
they're in
says.
like a board meeting, and fucking she's just naked as the day she was born, and they're like the whole board is just criticizing every piece of her body, and she's just fucking super embarrassed and whatnot. And Jim Jones is just looking over his fucking sunglasses, just smiling like he's enjoying this girl getting berated. Like he's taking pleasure from it. But what happened with the defectors, right? There were a couple people that got out, but it was so ingrained in people that people compared it to like the Gestapo, where families were ratting out families. It was very much like Scientology. Fucking, and it's weird how all cults are similar.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you couldn't trust your own family. Husbands couldn't trust wives. Like families were turning against each other by design. And what ended up happening was a few people had talked to reporters without Jim Jones's knowledge and without anybody else's knowledge, so that, like, because they would have been ratted out and, you know, beaten. So it came out, and then it was going to be published, and Jim Jones got on the phone with the whatever the highest person in a newspaper is called. I can't remember.
Editor-in-chief.
Editor-in-chief, yeah. Got on the phone with the editor and had her read him the article out loud. And he couldn't understand why he couldn't stop her from publishing it, because he was so used to, for 20 some odd years, to getting everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
So as soon as she read him the whole article, he realized how fucked he was.
Yeah.
Because it was, hey, he essentially raped me, he beats people, the church fucking alienates everybody. Like, it was the beginning of the end. It was all a fucking tinderbox, and it was gonna go down.
Yeah.
So he looked around to his, lieutenants and was like, we're leaving tonight, because it was going to be published at like 6 a.m. And they were already building the community in Guyana. That was a thing that they were already doing.
Yeah.
But he left like in the dead of night. He rounded up as many fucking people from the church as he could, and they all got on private jets and flew out to Guyana. And that's just what they did. And he got everybody out there, and it was like beautiful fucking fucking place, because it was built right in the middle of the fucking rainforest. And they had, supplies, and it was a thriving community and whatnot. But he was getting really sick also. Like his kidneys were failing, and he was on some medications and shit. And they said that he was getting increasingly paranoid while he was there. Everybody was cut off from the outside. There were no phone lines or anything. Any talks had to be from one designated ham radio. And there was speakers connected to the whole compound, and it was just Jim Jones talking 24/7. He recorded it, but it was on loop.
Yeah.
And it was just a propaganda machine. Like, he was talking about how the United States and Europe were fucking getting rid of all the black people and all the people of color, and that the compound in Guyana was the only place where they would be free, and like it was live free or die, and they would happily die for their cause, and all this other shit. And it was just that on loop. And he would record new messages every day. And but people were talking about how as time went on, it sounded like he was, because of his medications and shit, he started slurring his words.
Yeah.
And like he was just deteriorating really fast. And there was a senator in California that got elected, and he ended up like, people had written to him, like people that had defected, or people who had family that were in the People's Temple, like, hey, there's some fucking shit going down, you need to go look at this.
Yeah, it was Leo Ryan.
And yeah, there you go. And he was like fucking young gunslinger at the time, so he was like, oh, I'm gonna go right out there. And so he starts flying out there, and Jim Jones prepared like tons of scenarios for them coming out here. Like, they had welcome banners and shit for when he came out, but he was preparing people. Like, there were several scenarios where, hey, as soon as they walk in, kill them all. Like, fucking, they had contingencies if certain things happened that, you know, they'd kill everybody and then kill themselves. Like, it was a cunt hair shy of, you know, being a fucking massacre.
Yeah.
Like, more so than it was. And the senator, or the senator's assistant, had kept his, like, filed his will, and everybody that was going, like, they created new wills and kept him. She's like, I kept him in a drawer on our desk just in case, you know, something happened, because it was fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
It was creepy, especially with all the fucking stories that they had heard. They had heard there were armed guards and shit, and they got down there, and Jim Jones was showing them all the supplies that they had, and people were dancing and singing, and you know, people were brainwashed to the point they're like, this is the best thing that's ever happened in my life.
It was their utopia. It was their. They had everything that they needed, and yeah.
Come here, baby. Hi. Hold on, sorry.
Sure, no,
good night, baby. I see. Here you go, baby. All right. And the senator talked to them, and then got up on stage and was like, "Hey, you know, I know you all know why I came down here. It was just to see what was going on down here, and from the conversations that I've had, everybody's saying that it's, you know, the best thing that's happened in their lives, and people just erupted with fucking clapping, and were fucking like, yeah, the best thing that ever happened." And then there's this, what the catalyst to this whole thing, right, to everything that happened, because he was going to leave the next morning. He was going to interview a few more people and leave the next morning. Some guy tried to slip one of the reporters a note, and he folded it up and tried to put it in the, like, crick of his elbow, and it fell, and he's like, oh, hey, you dropped this. And like an 8-year-old kid is like, he slipped him a note, and that's where everything started fucking falling apart. So everybody went to bed, and then woke up the next morning, and people who were living there were like, that lived through this, were like, it was just like, it was a bright, sunny, like, beautiful day, but it just felt really dark. Like, you could tell something bad was gonna happen.
Yeah.
So the reporters did their interviews with people, like, do you feel like you could leave if you wanted to? And they're like, yeah, totally, like, if I wanted to, but why would I want to? This place is fantastic. And then hours later, because of you know, the speculation from the note, Jim Jones didn't want an assault on their compound, so he ended up mixing up the Kool-Aid, and that was one of the supplies that he, like, made it a point to say that they had. He's like, we got red beans and or black-eyed peas and rice, and got some like lots of Kool-Aid, and it's like, fuck me. And then that's what ended up happening. They mixed the Kool-Aid with, I think it was a cyanide.
Yeah, and then don't skip over what happened to the congressman, though. So there was a little bit of time when the congressman had done his interviews. A couple of the people did say that, like, as they were leaving, they were like, take us with you, like, we want to leave. And so there was like we need to leave right now, like, don't even worry about your shit right now. Like, so they were like, all right. So they get in the car, they get into a Jeep, and then they're like, drive straight to the plane, get on the plane, and go. And they said when they were driving out to the airport, his armed guards were already there waiting for them, and just shot the shit out of their car and killed all of them. But I think one reporter, a couple people lived, but not many, and mostly killed everyone, including that congressman got killed too while he was there. And then after that, because they just killed a congressman, they knew shit was going to hit the fan, and that's when he started to go into the Americans are going to come in and they're going to kill us all, and they, you know, our Russian brothers can't help us, and there's nothing we can do. And that's when they decided to continue. So he ended up being like, hey, we're gonna, you know, die with dignity, and
fucking everybody drink this punch. Oh, and that's something I didn't touch on before. I'm sorry. So years prior, he gave punch to his whole congregation, and they all drank it, you know, because as you do. And he's like, hey, you guys all just drink poison. And he had loyalty tests like that where people started freaking out, and some people just sat there and were like, okay, I drink poison. He's like, you didn't actually drink poison, but that was a test. Like, if I tell you to drink poison, you drink poison. Like,
yeah, he did that a lot too.
Yeah,
like, it was frequent, like, threats of mass suicide, and he'd been doing that for years, like decades. Like, that started early, like in the early 60s. He had started doing that when they were still in Indiana.
Yeah, and that was an important piece to touch on that I did skip over. But yeah, so he talked all of them into doing it. Well, he talked some of them into doing it. Yeah. And there are audio recordings and shit. Don't listen to them because they are haunting. Yeah. You can hear people screaming and crying, and he's like, don't be like this. Like, death is just a transition into the next phase, and just accept it with dignity, and everything's gonna be okay. I'm here for you, blah 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 blah. And it was
and he didn't even drink the punch.
Yeah, it was 909 people died, and there's a helicopter that ended up passing over, like,
and
several
they're
days
everywhere.
after everything happened. Yeah, and they are spread everywhere. And there's fucking tons of elderly people, people, and fucking men, women, fucking children, like parents.
200 of them were kids.
They're having to force this shit down kids' throats, and it's like, motherfucker, this piece of shit. You know what I mean? And it's the biggest mass suicide in American history, I know, but
it was the largest American loss of life to outside of war. I don't like world, like Civil War and stuff like that was the biggest, but this was the biggest mass suicide to date, even now, and the biggest loss of American life prior to 9/11. Like, that is the only thing that's ever gone more than that.
And the thing is, it started humbly, and like you and I talked earlier, and I was like, there's no crazy belief system that they had. Like,
it was Pentecostal church.
Yeah, there wasn't a crazy UFO or anything, and that's why we were talking earlier, and I was like, I can't cover beliefs because it's just fucking Pentecostal church. Like, they're odd, but it's not anything out of the ordinary. Like, that shit still goes on today, but it was just the leader, the whole People's Temple was Jim Jones. Like, the anomaly was Jim Jones. Like, if it would have just stayed secluded to what he had in Ukiah, it would have been probably a positive fucking thing.
Yeah, but he did technically a lot of good for a lot of people.
He really did.
Right,
he really
up to the end. Yeah,
he did. Like, positive political movements. Like, it was a good thing, and he talked about it. Like, he was able to relate to black people in a time where no other white person did, and that's one of the praises that people sang about him, was that people didn't see him as a white person; they saw him as their pastor. Yeah, and that's just the way that it was. It wasn't, and he was able to talk to black people in a way that they didn't feel was hostile, or he wasn't talking down to them. It was he was very welcoming, and he was very charismatic, and it was just
and he protected them, like you said earlier, when people were like, N-word this and that, he would be like, get out.
Yeah, exactly.
And they probably threw him a beating too, like, on the way out. That's kind of his style. But yeah, like, that was there was nothing. Even one of his like lieutenants was a black woman who he gave them like power with none, but because no one had any over him, but he gave them important duties, not just clean. It was like handle things.
It was his narcissism that was the catalyst to everything, right? Because he was like, hey, you know what, if you need me to be your father, I'm gonna be your father. If you need me to be your brother, I'll be your brother. If you need me to be your God, I'll be your God. And it was like, holy shit, man, like, really? And he was there was one sermon that he did that's I remember people talking about, where he's like, hey, you know what? And he held up a Bible and he's like, people put too much stock in this book. It's just a book.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, watch this. And then he just hucked it, like shucked it fucking right over all the pews and let it land. And it landed with a thud, because, you know, it's a hefty book.
It's dense. Yeah.
And it landed, and everybody's like, ooh, like, you know, daddy just slapped mom at the dinner table type quiet.
Yeah.
And
Awkward
he's like,
moment.
Here's the thing. Did you see anybody strike me down with lightning? Like,
yeah.
No, like it's not there. There may not be anybody up there. It's like, you have to be, you know, the best version of yourself, which again is a good fucking message. Like, you just be the best version of yourself. There may not be a heaven that you go to, but you got to make one here. And again, not a bad message, but his narcissism is what did the whole thing, and that's what was, again, the catalyst for everything that happened. But yeah, biggest loss of life is from mass suicide. And it was just real shitty. And again, like, listening, I didn't listen to the very end of it because, you know, I didn't want to, because I knew it was going to rehash the all of it, you know, the audio and shit that they had, because he recorded fucking everything. Like, he documented everything that he did,
even the very end, and that's how you can hear it, is because everything was recorded and later digitized. But yeah, and he was like, a little bit more to what you're saying, that he started separating a little bit from Christianity and becoming more of a prophet himself. And he started to reject the Bible because he said that it was a men's justification to dominate women and enslave the people of color. Like, that was and that's where people are on board.
This book has been enslaving black people for, he said 200 years, but I was like, it's been a lot longer than that.
Yeah, 1,000. But and he claimed that the Bible was a declaration of a sky god, or the buzzard god, and that who was no real god at all.
Right.
So that's where he would be like, I'll be your god, because he preached out against the Christian god. But he did all this through, like, Pentecostal style religion. So that's why people slowly would it was a slow transition. I kind of thought when I was reading about it as like, this is very much so the frog in the pot. Like, if you put a frog in a boiling pot of water, it'll jump out. But if you put it in cold water and slowly increase the heat, it'll sit there until it boils alive. And that's exactly what he did with these people. Just slow, and then indoctrination. And then, like Lolita said, it was just conditioning over and over and over.
And it got to the point, right, where a lot of people were feeling like, hey, this is not right. And like, people were speaking out on it, like, this isn't right. This feels wrong. But they're like, I'm too deep in at this point. Like, I can't get out even if I wanted to. Yeah. Like, whether it was because they were so bought in with monetarily, like they couldn't buy their, like, they had nothing if they left, or their whole family was there, and like, I can't leave my husband and my children. Fucking it's it was one of those things. And like I said it the last week, I said it this week, it's a lot like Scientology, where it's, you know,
once you're
indoctrinating people, and you're in, like,
blood in, blood out. Like, it was not, you're not leaving.
Yeah, man, it was fucking crazy, dude. But yeah, that's all I got for the People's Temple.
Same.
And good old Jimmy Jones, fucking cunt.
Yeah, he was a awful,
real piece of shit, real big piece of shit. But yeah, man, a real tick
to the W category for communism. It worked great.
See Samar back here about to choke slam Woody? Oh, there it is.
Got him.
She got him.
He's never walking again. Let's get straight into it, man. Let's do a little This Week in Dumb.
All right.
This Week in Dumb.
All right.
You got that ball rolling. You said you got two. I'll hear you two.
I do have two. All right.
Hit me.
So this week in dumb, obviously it's going to be about, big thing in news. I don't know if you've heard about it. There's apparently a sickness going around. It's causing a lot of people some concern, called the coronavirus. So with all the closures, business closures and whatnot, and everybody working from home or whatnot.
Let's touch on that real quick. When was the last time you left your house?
Today.
Oh, I haven't been anywhere since Monday. I have not left.
Really?
Yeah.
With all the businesses closing, GameStop has informed employees that if local authorities attempt to shut down their store in states with orders to close establishments deemed non-essential, so GameStop employees are to inform law enforcement that the company believes that they should be classified as essential retail and therefore are able to remain open during this time. The instructions came with a flyer to hand over to law enforcement and includes the phone number for GameStop's corporate office. So GameStop is like, hey,
above the law.
Yeah, we're above the law. Also, we don't give a fuck if our employees get sick.
Quit.
Right? Fucking A.
That's a company that sounds truly evil.
Right? Right? It sure is. So the second one on that same token is South Korean church sprayed salt water inside followers' mouths, believing that it would prevent the coronavirus.
Oh, God.
So due to this, 46 people got infected with the coronavirus because they didn't change the nozzle.
No, that's not how things work.
Yeah.
Idiots.
It's like, what the fuck were you doing?
Stick to StarCraft. Jeez.
Right? Get your shit together. But yeah, that is this week in dumb because people are fucking idiots. Hey.
Is it time?
You know it's time. You know what time it is.
I do know what time it is. It is 1:20. It is 1:21 a.m.
It is. Do you know where your children are?
Truly.
Do you remember those?
Yeah. Like, I got a good idea, but no.
All right, here we go. Rotten Tomatoes game, guys. So this week we are sticking to the topic of cults. So these are all films that put cults on display or are about cults, or cult-like happenings.
Cult habits.
Cult habits. Cult things. Just cult things. Hashtag.
Get it trended.
Right? Oh, working in a grocery store with this whole coronavirus thing is a mess. Dude, T-Less, I do not envy you.
No.
But stay safe, my man. Like, feel free to fucking yell at people for being cunts. I mean, don't lose your job. But
or
you know, that's a really fucking tough place to be in, because I know people are fucking ridiculous and goddamn, and the thing about the situations like these, right? It really brings the true colors of people out.
Yeah,
you know,
humanity at its worst.
Yeah, you really see people for what they really are. We're just a bunch of fucking animals. We're like 1 month, like 1 to 2 months. Like, you know how we're 1 to 2 months shy of being homeless?
Yeah.
You know, without pay, 1 to 2 months, we're homeless. People, like just humanity as a whole, 1 to 2 months shy of being just fucking animals again. Just 100% fucking, you know, survival mode and shit. And it's like, it's real shitty to see, like, people that in that light. And it's I don't envy you, T-Less, and I commend you for doing the job that you do. But seriously, stay safe, and you know, all that goodness. Hopefully you don't have any respiratory diseases or are an at-risk person. If you are, definitely stay safe. If you're not, you'll get through it.
Did you
It's
see
not
my
the worst thing in the
did you see
world.
my tweet? It was kind of about the same thing.
I didn't.
It said the Joker in 2008, he said, "See their morals, their code. It's a bad joke dropped at the first sign of trouble. There's only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people will eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve." And
Yeah,
that was from
that's
2008
100% right.
and
That's
2020.
100% right.
That's the picture.
Yeah, Heath Ledger got out while the getting was good.
Yeah.
He knew it was up. There it is. And I like it.
Joker was right. He's just ahead of the curve.
He always is.
It's not wrong. He was just kind of an asshole, though.
Yeah. Was he though?
I mean, yeah.
Just like chaos. Like a bit of chaos. Are you ready, Bloody?
Hit me,
for
baby.
your first film. We're not going to go over the rules because, you cunts should all know the rules by now.
Yeah.
If you don't ask questions, I'll answer them. And I promise I'll try not to be condescending. Danny and Christian are a young American couple with a relationship on the brink of falling apart, but after a family tragedy keeps them together, a grieving Danny invites herself to join Christian and his friends on a trip to a once-in-a-lifetime midsummer festival in a remote Swedish village. What begins as a carefree summer holiday in a land of eternal sunlight takes a sinister turn when the insular villagers invite their guests to partake in festivities that render the pastoral paradise increasingly unnerving and viscerally disturbing. I'm of course talking about 2019's
Midsummer.
Yep. Directed by Ari Aster, starring Florence Pugh, Jack Rayner, and Wilhelm Blomgren. Nobody will know.
It was a Bloody and Sutty BS award winner for Best Horror Film of 2019.
Sure was.
Did the critics like it? Probably. It was a really good movie.
I mean, we're pretty critical and we liked it.
I'm going to say it was fresh at 75%.
Okay. It was indeed fresh. Certified so, as a matter of fact. But I mean, it could be certified at 75.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, could it have been a perfect 100? In the 90s, maybe?
Could have been.
But it wasn't. It was certified fresh at 83%.
Hey, nice.
You got 8 points on that one. Not bad.
Not bad.
Some fun
Let's
facts
wrap
about
it up
this one.
there.
All right, who we rating?
Who we rating?
Most of the Swedish dialogue spoken by Harga or the Harga natives is deliberately not subtitled in order to create the sense of isolation for the audience and especially for the foreign visitors. So you're supposed to not know what they're saying, so you're like, what the fuck are they saying?
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice touch.
That was a
Like
nice
I didn't realize it as it was happening. I think I did actually. I was like, the fuck are they saying? And then I was like, oh well, fuck it. But looking back on it, I was like, man, that's a nice touch. Like, I really did want to know what the fuck they were saying.
Yeah.
Now Mark, the character Mark, displays an extreme phobia of ticks, which is actually based on Ari Aster's real-life fear of bugs and illness. Like Mark, Aster wore 2 pairs of socks over his jeans to ensure he wouldn't get any bug bites. So Ari Aster's scared of little bug bites. Lyme disease.
That's real. That ain't
What were you
nothing.
gonna say?
You know what's funny was when I watched it the first time, I watched it somewhat less than legally. And I thought when there were no subtitles for the Swedish, it was just that they didn't include it.
Copy.
Yeah, I just assumed it didn't have them. And that everyone else knew what they said except for me. But now I know.
Now you know. The more you know and shit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next on the docket.
Neshed.
Will and Eden were once a loving couple. After a tragedy took their son, Eden disappeared. 2 years later, out of the blue, she returns. with a new husband, and as a different person, eerily changed and eager to reunite with her ex and those she left behind. Over the course of a dinner party in the house that was once his, the haunted Will is gripped by mounting evidence that Eden and her new friends have a mysterious and terrifying agenda. But can we trust Will's hold on reality, or will he be the unwitting catalyst of the doom that he senses? I'm speaking of 2015's The Invitation.
I know what you're talking about.
You do or do not?
Don't.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I was really hoping...
Give me a
so
break,
it's directed by Karen Kusama and starring Logan Marshall Green, who you don't recognize his name, but he's in lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty much nobody else. There's Emiyatsi Korinayeldi. I'm sure I nailed that pronunciation.
Killed it.
And Michelle Heisman. But yeah, but it's very, very good. You need to watch it. So take a shot in the fucking dark, I guess, because
I think actually
we get a 230 packs of Michelob Ultra.
Oops, that's not it. I don't know anything about this film. I didn't see it. I've heard nothing about it.
That's upsetting, man. You
Maybe
need to
I
watch it.
do,
Remedy
though.
that.
I'm gonna say
You need to watch it.
Maybe
Remedy
I
that.
do,
Remedy.
I'm gonna
here you
say...
go, buddy. Oh wait, never mind.
That's a lot of water. This isn't water.
Oh, here you
This
go,
is Irish coffee, my man.
Of course it is.
Why wouldn't it be? I'm work from home now. I can do this all day.
Let's say I'm gonna take it as middle as I can because I don't know anything about it. I feel like cult movies do fairly well, but I don't know. You said it was good, so I'm gonna say fresh but barely at 60%.
60. Okay. It was fresh and certified so, as a matter of fact, at 88%. So 28 on that one.
28 on that one.
Can't fault you for that if you hadn't seen it and heard nothing about it.
Never even heard of it.
I actually ended up discovering that one randomly on Netflix, and I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect much out of it,
I'm gonna
and I
look
was
it
like,
up
"Oh
now."
man, this is." You should. Rapidash, what were you streaming, man? Some more Smash, as per usual. All right. So next, these next two are ones that we've talked about recently. The journalist The journalist Patrick works at Vice, a company dedicated to cover bizarre news. When his sister, Caroline, joins a community, she travels abroad with her new family. Out of the blue, Caroline invites her brother to visit her in an undefined country, and Patrick travels via helicopter with his friends Jake and Sam that also work with him at Vice.
Yeah,
They find weird that the men that have come to guide them to Eden Parish have guns. On the arrival to Camp Patrick, Sam and Jake find a community of happy people that worship Father. They interview Father, but soon they realize that the people are not as happy as they seem to be. Further, they find that they are trapped in the Parish Eden, and they want to leave the place with the newcomers. But the Father does not have any intention to let them go. Talking, of course, of 2013's The Sacrament. This is the one that I thought John Goodman played him.
So he looks like him, though.
He looks very much like him. It's directed by Ty West, starring absolutely nobody. It's Joe Swanberg, AJ Bowen, and Kentucker Oddly. Who the fuck names their kid Kentucker?
Assholes. That's who. This was a great movie. It's actually really, really good. It was very much so playing on the
today's topic,
People's Temple. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's even rated on Rotten Tomatoes.
Sure is.
Probably isn't certified. But is it certified?
It's not. It's not certified.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I thought it was great. Let's say it's... I mean, it's got a lot of violence in it. I can't imagine it scored that well, so I'm going to say rotten, but a high rotten at 55%.
55?
Yeah.
It is actually not rotten. It is fresh.
Oh, I'm good. I'm happy it did well. I mean, it
is
fucks
at,
my game, but...
Not by much, though. Not by as much as you would think. It's just barely fresh at 64%.
Oh, okay. I'll take the 9.
So not terrible. Some fun facts about this. 2 retired members of the Harlem Globetrotters played background roles in this movie.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So it's just in the background, it's like...
The Washington Generals are like those motherfuckers.
Also, this is actually a more fun fact. Oh, well, not more fun. It's just a more harrowing fun fact. According to the film commentary, in the originally conceived ending, spoiler alerts, the helicopter pilot was not shot. Once the helicopter pilot got to altitude, the pilot proclaimed, "We must follow Father's orders," and crashed the helicopter, killing everyone on board. This conceived ending of the movie, with the helicopter pilot committing suicide and killing everyone on board, is very similar to one of the many plans Jim Jones's cult had to commit revolutionary suicide. One of Jones's mistresses took flying lessons and got her pilot's license in case they ever wanted to fill a plane up with the People's Temple's members and crashing it in the name of the cult.
Wow.
Which I didn't know in any of my research. It was just through this fun fact that I actually figured that shit out, and I was like, wow, holy shit.
That's crazy.
You know? Yeah. You're not having a bad game so far, man.
So far, so good.
We're three movies in. So next one is teenager Jared invites his best friends Travis and Billy Ray to have a foursome with a 38-year-old woman. While driving to meet the woman, Travis hit a car parked on the road. When they meet the woman, she gives spiked beer to them and they pass out. When the 3 friends wake up, they find that they're trapped in the fundamentalist 5 Points Trinity Church of the infamous pastor Abin Cooper, and they will be killed. Meanwhile, the church is under siege by ATF agents led by Joseph Keenan that have been ordered to destroy the terrorist cell. Will the teenagers be saved by the agents of the law enforcement agency?
Spoiler alert!
This is 2011's Red State.
Great
directed
movie.
by Kevin Smith. Starring Michael Parks, Melissa Leo, and John Goodman.
John motherfucking Goodman.
Thin John Goodman, too. Like,
yeah.
Creepy, saggy-faced John Goodman.
Yeah. He was one of the ATF agents, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Like
his lead
agent in charge, yeah. Yeah, that was such a good movie.
I enjoyed it very much.
Star director that I think most of the community likes and respects. I would say this is a solid, fresh, certified. So, at the whole time, 90%. It was great.
90?
I'm going full 90 on this one. I might have overshot it, but
just a bit. It's actually just barely fresh at 60%.
Why? It was a great film.
I liked it a lot, right? Yeah. I liked it very, very much. There are a couple fun facts about this one, though. So during filming, Kyle Gallner suffered a panic attack whilst being tied to a cross, which the crew was unaware of at first. They thought that he was just acting. Yeah, he was sitting there fucking tied to it, and it's like, They kept it in the film.
Oh, so that's in the film?
Yeah, when he's actually flipping out, being tied to the cross.
He was actually flipping out.
Yeah, he's the one that has the hood tied around his head when he's tied to the cross and he's fucking flailing all over the place.
Yeah.
That's that part. Like, he was legitimately flipping the fuck out. When I read that, it reminded me a lot of Poltergeist.
Yeah.
When the kid was being fucking choked, and Steven Spielberg was like, "That was a great take," and he's like, "Oh fuck, this kid's really being fucking choked by this prosthetic. Holy shit." Yeah. Oh man. All right. Where we at? All right. Last movie. Are you ready for your last film?
Hit me, baby.
All right. This one I know you've seen because we talked about it.
Okay.
Taking place in 1983, Red is a lumberjack who lives in a secluded cabin in the woods. His artist girlfriend Mandy spends her days reading fantasy paperbacks. Then one day, she catches the eye of a crazed cult leader who conjures a group of motorcycle-riding demons to kidnap her. Red, armed with a crossbow and a custom axe, stops at nothing to get her back, leaving a bloody, brutal pile of bodies in his wake. I'm, of course, talking about 2018's Mandy. Directed by Panos Cosmatos, starring Nicolas Cage, Andrea Riseborough, and Linus Roche.
All right, did you like this film?
I really did. It was really fucking weird, but I liked it a lot.
It was way too weird for me to get into.
Was it really?
Yeah, I had a hard time hanging with it. Like, it was just like, what is even happening? Are these motorcycles people or demons? And if they're demons, why are they riding motorcycles? Can't they just...
Because they can.
Move quickly? Why are their arms so spiky? I had a lot of questions. Didn't love it.
Fair.
I didn't like this film as the later Nick Cage movies. I don't like either. I'm just gonna go with my gut.
Did you watch Mom and Dad?
Mom and Dad, yes.
Did you
I like that one. Yes, I did. I thought that was great.
Okay. All right.
He didn't have a lot of screen time though. I didn't like
a lot of.
Yes,
he did.
Not as well. He wasn't a main character. In other words,
he was Dad. He was there.
It was about the kids who was on the screen constantly, and he was gone through the middle of the movie. He was there in the beginning, and he went to work and left, and then at the end he came back.
No, he came back in the middle. He did that fucking thing with the daughter's boyfriend. Wow.
Yeah,
goddamn, just the fucking best. That was.
I forgot about that.
That made the whole fucking movie for me.
That was crazy. Then his parents came to kill him. That was great. Oh,
and that was Lance Henriksen. Lance Henriksen made the cameo as his dad.
Yeah, he did. It was great. This one less great by a long shot. I can see why people would like it though. It was very weird and very artsy. I'm sure there's a lot of underlying shit that I just didn't pick up on or understand. So I'm gonna give it points for that one. I'm gonna say it is rotten at 50%.
Well, you kind of fucked up there. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Is it super fresh?
It's super fresh.
I'm gonna change my shit 90.
Do you want to change it?
No, it's fine. I will stick
I'll
with my
allow
answer.
it. I'll
no,
allow
because
it.
now I know. It's okay.
No,
I'll take the loss.
I'm gonna allow it. Nope, I'm gonna allow it.
Are we cheating?
You changed it. It's fine. I just said it was super fresh. I didn't say how fresh it was.
Oh, all right. Then I'll change it to 80.
You're such a cunt.
There's going to be a big asterisk on this game.
Is there, though? Because here's the thing, right? It was certified fresh at 90%. If you would have just kept it at fucking 90, you would have gotten -5.
I would have lost 5.
But now, because you switched it to 80 like an asshole,
I gained 10.
you gained 10. So yeah. Some fun facts about this. The Cheddar Goblin commercial was directed by Chris Casper Kelly, who directed the Adult Swim short Too Many Cooks. Do you remember that?
No.
You don't remember Too Many Cooks?
Mm-mm.
It's like a 15-minute fucking sitcom intro that's just too many cooks, too many cooks. Like it's just introducing characters just constantly, and then it's just a serial killer killing people, and but still constantly to that fucking intro. It's really fucking fantastic. You need to watch it because it's a good way to kill 15 minutes.
All right.
So just before shooting started, Cage's 14-year marriage to Alice Kim came to a sudden end. Nicolas Cage said on it, "A shocker for me. I didn't see it coming, and those feelings had to go somewhere, so they went into my performance." So he was distraught by his marriage ending. So he brought that to his performance as Red. He was also approached by the director to play the bad guy, the main protagonist. I can't remember his name. Like
the antagonist.
Yeah. God damn it! I did it again.
Well, at least you didn't deny it this time.
yeah. I did it again. But yeah, he was approached to play the antagonist years prior to it getting greenlit, and he was like, "I'd rather play Red." And then the director was like, "I can't see it. Don't see you doing it." And then years later, after talking about where he was in his life, he's like, "All right, yeah, your life's shitty.
Oh yeah, your life sucks. You're in."
But yeah, man. So let's see, 49, 57. 85 points.
That's where under 100. That's a pretty good game for me.
That is pretty solid,
solid,
man.
bloody game.
You got real fucked by Red State and
the second one,
The Invitation, which to your credit you hadn't seen.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
it's rare that I've never even heard of it.
Do watch it though. I mean, I hadn't heard of it when I watched it. I'd only heard of it because I'd seen it pop up on my Netflix recommendations, which, to be fair, are not what they used to be. I missed the 5-star rating system from Netflix.
Oh, versus just thumbs up, thumbs down? Yeah,
because I mean the 5-star, that's how I found a lot of movies that I watched otherwise.
Yeah. Because
of how I rated other movies. And I spent, I was single when that shit came out. So I rated like 1,800 things. So my fucking recommendations were fucking dialed right the fuck in. Yeah. That's why I found Ink, actually.
That was a great movie. I just thought about that recently, actually.
It was a great movie. I tell everybody, and anybody who will listen, I tell about that movie.
Watch Ink.
I'm like, great. Hey, watch Ink. It's fan-fucking-tastic. Like, I shed tears. I don't shed tears at movies. Unless dogs are dying,
dogs.
No tears are coming out of this face.
No, yeah, it was great. But and no dogs died in that movie.
Yeah, no dogs died in that movie. And, I was like...
yeah. That was a good one.
Hit me right in the feels. But yeah, there it is. So there it is. That's our show. That's the whole thing. That's the whole show. You ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
You had a bug on me.
Yo.
It's dead now.
Imagine so.
Yeah. Today we dove a little bit deeper into, the March of Cults, the March of Madness, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people join these types of organizations. We talked about it last week because they need a sense of belonging and they need that sense of community. They feel alienated from everyone else around them, and they feel like the only place that they can get it is from this unhealthy place, something that they probably wouldn't have joined if they were in a better place in their lives. So here is us hoping that everybody, especially considering the trying times that we're in, you guys are in a good place. If you're not, I hope we bring you some sort of joy. There are definitely people that you can talk to, friends, loved ones, professionals that care about where you are and where your headspace is, and see you through to the other side. But we are here to, bring you mindless entertainment from being just 100% fucking idiots.
And if you need a place, our Discord channels will happily be your cult replacement.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Jump in, and you will be welcomed with open arms. It's a community, 2 great communities full of great people. We put funny things in there. It's like an extenuation of the show. If you're ever feeling like, hey, I've seen all the shows and I don't know what to do next, I'll tell you what you do next. Jump in that Discord.
Yeah, join the Discord. We'll 100%. We love you for loving us, and we just want to love you some fucking more.
All of our social flavors will be listed in the description below, including our Discord channels. Join. We are open for business 24/7. So yeah, we're good. That was it. That was your start. So hey, this is I am Bloody the Elf. That is
SuttySmash.
Reminding you guys, keep it posy.
There was.
That was good. I felt good about it.
I liked it.
Dude, I bet our Discords explode.
Oh yeah.